Hello, thanks for tuning in. This is the Signature Show. I am Vin Martin Obiora Ilo. Well, Christmas is in the air. In another 24 hours, all over the world, millions and millions and millions of people will be celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. And to kick off with our program today, we have Reverend Father Pascal Nwoko, the parish priest of Our Lady of Fatima Sheda in Abuja, talking to us on the true meaning of Christmas. In the passing week, former economic advisor to the President of Nigeria and Professor of Development Economics, Professor Osito Ogbu, presented his book entitled Development as Attitude, How National Progress is Shaped by Leadership Philosophy and Citizens Orientation. We'll be bringing you that book presentation, and we also have the honor of hosting Professor Osito Ogbu in the course of this program. We'll also be taking you to Enugu, where the grand finale of Voices in Praise Gospel Music Talent Hunt took place, with a graduate of Ebonyi State University winning the competition and going home with a grand prize. Also last week, the Archie community in Enugu, under the auspices of the Archie Improvement Union, held their 2023 end-of-year party. We also have details of the party. Don't go away. Signature Show continues in a moment. Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Father, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too, sir.
So, here we are. I mean, I am in celebration mode and mood already.
Same here.
But what does Christmas really mean? Is it just a time for us to celebrate? Or are there other significances of this beautiful, beautiful festival?
Thank you so much for inviting me to this program today. A Merry Christmas to you all. It is important we understand what we're celebrating today, that Christmas is not just a birthday, but a reality. A reality because God is made visible. I want to present Christmas as a story because there's a lot of things that people attribute to Christmas that has nothing to do with Christmas. Christmas is a celebration of the divine presence. I call it a reality because it's the divine presence in human reality. For us Christians, reading through the scriptures, we'll come to understand that in the Old Testament, there were a lot of speculations of who God is. Trying to understand God as a person, as a father, as a friend, and no one could really say that this is what God looks like. So what we celebrate is presence. And to make this more clear, or to make this clearer to us, Christmas begins with a prophecy. Christmas begins with a prophecy. In the book of Isaiah, the prophecy of Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, we're told that Isaiah prophesied that a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. So let us pay attention to that name, Emmanuel. Emmanuel is God with us. So God with us now becomes a reality. Is that God was absent? No, he wasn't absent, but this time God becomes a reality. So what we celebrate is a story that begins with a prophecy and a fulfillment. So Christmas is God's presence. Christmas is God being a human being. And this mystery, no created man can explain this. Explain this in the sense that we're talking about a virgin conceiving and bearing a son. And a lot of controversies will come up how can this be? Even Mary herself could not fully understand what she was about to go into. But going through that story, because I would advise during this period, families to engage more in Bible readings so they can be able to understand fully the meaning of Christmas, especially through the Gospel of Matthew chapter 1 and chapter 2, and the Gospel of Luke chapter 1 and chapter 2. It's very important that during this period that families should try to understand the real meaning of Christmas from that particular text. I also want to add that Christmas portrays three attributes of God that should be a tool for man's joy during this season. Three attributes of God that should be a tool for man's joy during this period. The first one is God is almighty, but is humble. The second is God is majestic, but simple. And the third one is God is absolute and truth. In other words, Christmas expresses God's humility, God's simplicity, and God's integrity.
That's really elaborate. Is there anything we can do from the pulpit to, bring back Nigeria to the narrow path, which we are told leads, to good things? Of course, the wide path, leads to ruination. And it looks like we're in the wide path. We are not focused. We are not driven by the love for country, the love for nation. What can those of you on the pulpit do? Because that pedestal, that platform, makes it possible for you to talk to the high and mighty as well as the low in society.
It begins from the pastor himself, living a holy life, a life of contentment. If you can do that, you can speak the truth. If you can do that, you can speak the truth. There's just one person, one human who is God that should be the mentor of all of us who are ministers of the gospel. And that person is Jesus. He was blameless. He was blameless.
So what would the message be? Charity begins at home. Pastors and men of God must lead by example. What will they, besides doing this, what kind of message should they be passing to the rest of us?
Let me take it down to Christmas, because we're celebrating Christmas. So let me take it down to Christmas. So what we should do is this. Christmas is a time not to be under pressure. A lot of persons are under pressure during this period. Financial pressure, fatigue from excessive celebrations. Sometimes you travel to the village during this period, maybe for a funeral or for a wedding ceremony, and there are levies and taxes waiting for you and all that. And cooking and partying, shopping. This can bring so much pressure. Because with the look of things, the modern man is trying to remove Christ from the mass. The moment we do that, there may be incidents like accidents, because the drivers are also under pressure, stealing, cheating, family wars, unstable behaviors. Christmas brings an unending joy, not fatigue or regret or problems.
Christmas, yes, it is for Christians, but the celebration, one way or the other, touches even those that are not Christians. What will be your message to Christians about their relationship with people of other religions?
Our relationship with others should be one that portrays God as love, God as a father, God as a friend. One of the first statements the angels made when the angel appeared to the shepherds was, "Do not be afraid." He didn't come to put pressure on them. He came to bring good news. So during this period, those you meet, you should carry good news with you. And I also want to add by saying this: Christmas is not Santa Claus. Neither is Christmas expensive gifts. And Christmas is not extravagant travels or a celebration of personal achievements. Christmas is not even colorful decorations, what we think it is. It is Christ's Mass, which is an holy exchange that restores our life. Primarily, primarily, this holy exchange brings to us is peace and joy, which is translating to our generosity. So you realize that a lot of persons are generous during this period. They try to be give gifts, do things that normally they don't even do. That gifts also translate to holy actions like praying, strategic planning, happy living. Then the decoration will make sense if the colorful, the lights, the Christmas trees should reflect the joy in your heart, the peace in your heart. Should reflect the welcoming spirit, the hospitality that comes from you. So if the environment is colorful but you're hostile, we are just being hypocrites.
Let's end by asking you to leave a message for all Nigerians at this time.
The message I want to leave for Nigerians and to all of us this period is God loves us. He wants the best for humanity. Imagine God stooping so low, in quotes, stooping so low that man can be like him. That's the message of Christmas. That God becoming man, that man can become like God. So the message is this. During this period, learn from the humility of God. Learn from the simplicity of God. And learn from the integrity of God. I will also add, during this period, it is not Xmas, it is Christmas. It is happy Christmas, not happy holidays. I go back to what I said before, that we don't remove Christ from the celebration because Christ is the reason for the celebration.
A good way to end it. Reverend Father Pascal Nwoko, Parish Priest, Our Lady of Fatima Sheda, Abuja. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much
on our
program.
program. And Merry Christmas once
Merry
again.
Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you.
The Signature Show continues in a moment. So let's bring you activities of the book presentation of Development as Attitude by Professor Osita Ogbu. Immediately after that, we'll be talking with the professor himself.
A former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, says for Nigeria to develop as a nation, it is not by electing the best candidate, but rather the attitude of the citizens must change. Jonathan stated this in Abuja on Tuesday, December 12th, at the public presentation of the book Development as Attitude: How National Progress is Shaped by a Leadership Philosophy and Citizens Orientation by Professor Osita Ogbu.
Our attitude as politicians matters towards development. If we must develop, there are certain things we must make sure. If it will go to every Nigerian, it must go to every Nigerian. It will go to every community, it must go. It will go to every state, it must go. Local government and so on. But there are certain things that you know that this is of national interest. And when you begin to treat things of national interest as where you go and share groundnut or money in the market, it's like treated money that was being shared, then you have a problem.
The book was reviewed by Professor Jideofor Adibi, who described it as a book of philosophy of development. He said the book will be a guide for policymakers, politicians, social scientists, and development students in their studies.
In chapter 5, he started to talk about Latif Jakonde, the phenomenon. It was an eulogy because he believed that he was able to tackle difficult assignments with courage and efficiency, and at the same time, he epitomized honesty, simplicity, and integrity.
The author, Professor Osita Ogbu, in the book believes that development is about the evaluation of alternative values and choices, and leaders must make these choices.
So those of us who are in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, in the executive arm, development is not a joke. It's not a happenstance. When a budget is presented before you, it's not supposed to be tinkered, destroyed, added as you wish. There must be a purpose. It must create something that someone else can build upon.
Enugu State Governor Peter Mba was represented by his chief of staff, top government officials, senators, members of House of Representatives graced the occasion in Abuja. Nasir Usman for Signature Show.
Professor Bo, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Martin.
What was the driving force in coming out with this book, Development as Attitude?
I have read a lot of what great leaders, those that have transformed their countries, what they have done, their biographies, the statements they made at the early stages of their development, the directions in which they took their country. And when I studied Singapore, Malaysia, Israel, United States, and many other countries, it dawned on me that when leaders emerge, what they say and do are very critical. In fact, it began to occur to me that in shaping ideas and policies, they come into office with a certain philosophy, a certain ideology, if you like. If you are essentially one who wants an inclusive government, it is not something that happens in between. It is something that starts from day one. If you're one who is going to lift 10 million people out of poverty, it doesn't happen by chance. They pursue it, they fight for it, they go to Congress and make statements. So I'm sure in the course of the conversation today, I will be able to illustrate some of the points that I'm making now. But that was what gave me the idea that leaders must shape progress with their own ideology, philosophy, values, and knowledge. And when you don't have knowledge, you gather people who have knowledge. So it's an interesting book because it is a book that is multi-sectoral, meaning one discussed national planning, one discussed security matters, one discussed inequality, peace and justice, a whole gamut of issues that bedeviling Nigeria and most African countries from that sort of comparative perspective of what others have done, what we need to do, and what leaders ought to do.
Development as attitude. Attitude of the leaders or attitude of the followers?
Both. The leaders also shape the attitude of followers. You set the agenda from the top. If a president goes to the National Assembly and says, this my budget is targeted at lifting 10 million people out of poverty, that budget must be reflective of that agenda. It cannot just be said, because budget is a major instrument for driving policy. So if you don't set that agenda from the top, the Congress might also not follow you. If they see that you're going zigzag, there's no focus on the budget, then they begin, even the so-called budget padding comes from a sense that the Parliament gets, the Congress gets, the Senate, House of Reps, they get a sense that this is business as usual. And so, but if the tone of the leader, if the philosophy and values of the leader is reflective of both what they say and what they do, the followers will adjust.
And it looks like this gives credence to the principal agent actors theory in development, where the leaders, the principal agent, has a lot of influence in what happens to the followers.
Absolutely. Let me give you an example. In 1937, let me go back, Franklin D. Roosevelt, then President of United States, wanted what he called a fair access to housing, fair and equitable housing access. That's what he called it. And when he took this to the American Congress, you know how Americans are, they thought this was a socialist idea. This was 1937. But guess what, Martin, look at what he said. He said, necessitous men are not free men. Those without jobs, food, and housing cannot be considered citizens and should not be held responsible for citizenship responsibility. This is him addressing Congress. That when people are hungry, unhoused, unemployed, don't expect them to exercise the responsibilities of citizenship. And in fact, in my own case, I've even added to say, when these citizens see the inequality widening, meaning a few are garnering what belongs to all of us, it becomes even worse. That citizenship responsibility even declines further. So, but he fought through, and enacted the act that started the journey of public housing in the United States, that led to Lyndon Johnson then eventually, can you imagine, in 1965, now establishing housing and urban development as a ministry. Because every ministry in the United States evolved from something. They don't just create ministries. They are solution-based. They are there to,
Like when they brought the Homeland Security
because,
Department.
exactly, to resolve that crisis of terrorism. So, that kind of a man who, and even at that, he went further. He said we shouldn't judge our progress by how much we add to those who already have, but how much we add to those who do not have. So, if the number of private jets in Nigeria is increasing and poverty is increasing, we should be worried. But the leaders, you can see the leader crafting a statement, pursuing it and saying, no, you guys don't understand. We need to do things for the less privileged. And this is where somebody like Jakande, which is also, I wrote in the book, comes in as a guy who did 30,000 housing units for the low income. That has never been equaled. When I was asked to give lecture on Jakande, and I said, why don't you tax those who are building in Ikoyi, Banana Island, and use it to provide housing? Because that land, in Banana Island, Ikoyi, belongs to the state, which means belongs to all of us, including the rich and the poor. So if you can sell it, tax it, that can be a source of provision of housing for the poor. So, yes, the principal, the leader, has a distinct role to direct not only policy, but a mindset change, which is very critical. Mindset change. Among those who are either his agents or even those who are in Congress or Parliament or House of Reps or Senate, who are not necessarily his agents, but from his actions, his words, his policies, he can begin to change the mindset around how we do things.
And that gives me the impression of when they say leadership by example.
Yeah.
Okay, let's localize what you have done in this book as it affects Nigeria. The year between 1956 and 1966 looks like it was the golden age of Nigeria's development. And we had 3 men, to thank for this. Michael Okpara in the eastern region, Saduana in the northern region, and Awolowo in the western region. When we look back, most of the industries, let me go to the southeast for instance, most of the industries that exist in the southeast even today, in the greater part of South-South, were creations of Michael Okpara between these years I talked about. When you talk about the pyramids, the granite pyramids, or you talk about the cocoa and the cocoa house and the Western Broadcasting University of Ibadan, University of Nigeria, name them. These things were creations of these men and their team. Is there something that is different in the attitude of those leaders and the attitude of the current leaders who have money coming from the Federation account every month? They have oil and all that, because when we are talking about the period we are talking about, there was no oil. It was palm kernel, the groundnuts, cocoa, and all that. What is that fundamental difference in attitude between these groups of people?
They were fundamental. First of all, these men you mentioned, Awolowo in the west, Michael Okpara in the east, Saduana Sokoto, Ahmadu Bello in the north, were the people that fought for the independence. So first of all, there was that spirit that they fought for something, got something, and they wanted to also demonstrate value. But they were also men of value. When I was writing about Jakonde, for instance, I had to dig deep into his background. Part of the crisis we have is crisis of recruitment of leaders. Jakonde wasn't a person of means, so how come he became governor of Lagos State? He was truly, truly embedded in the philosophy of Awoism. And if you go and read how Awo established, many people don't know what he went through to establish that free education that he had in the West. His budget was off the mark because he didn't anticipate the enthusiasm, the sort of the numbers that will show up.
That wanted to go to school.
That wanted to go to school. But you see, an American president once said that a good government, this is James Madison, is one who understands the essence of governance and must have fidelity to that essence. And that the essence is actually to generate happiness for all. So first condition, you have to have fidelity to the object of governance, which is the generation of happiness for all citizens. But the second part of his statement, and this was said in 1778, is that you must have the knowledge of the means. In other words, even if you know that this is the object, do you have the knowledge of the means? So, when Awo ran into difficulty, sort of, in quotes, that, hey, he found a way. He said, I have already promised free education, and I must see it through. So he started perhaps constructing with mud, recalling teachers who have retired, removing benefits from senior people in government in order to gather money to do what he needed to do. Fidelity to the object of governance and having the knowledge of the means to deliver. The attitude, you mentioned the universities. University of Nigeria was not cited in where Okpala comes from, Dr. M.I. Okpala. No.
Where Zik came from?
Where Zik came from. Ahmadu Bello University was not cited where the Sadran of Sokoto came from. University of Ife, that Chief Awolowo built, was not cited where he came from. Can you see, even from that very simple elementary example, that these people were selfless in many ways? They did not accumulate wealth. They knew the object of governance. They also surrounded themselves with people who knew, who would advise. When Zik wanted to establish University of Nigeria, he made a lot of profound statements, both at Michigan State University and Enugu, the House of Assembly in Enugu, speaking about what the university should represent. And so when I speak to faculty and students about those statements he made in those days, I say, but, you know, he said things like the university will feed itself and feed the surrounding community. I said, what happened? He anticipated that it will be a university with significant vocation, with a large population. He anticipated these things. So there was a mind, you see, that's why I sort of talk about attitude as values, knowledge, character, mindset. So there was a mindset shift when oil came, when the recruitment process became characterized by mercantilism, exchange, who has the highest money, even governorship positions are often offered to one who can buy it. There was a mindset shift from the early leaders. And like you said, the pillars for development were established. That was even when we had a development plan. Mm-hmm. We had the first and second development plan, and we have really not had any serious plans since then. Because the point I make, and it is even in the book, that you are planning in an uncommon environment. You know, you can't plan when there's no elite consensus. If the president says one thing, and the parliament, the House of Rep and the Senate are saying a different thing, how can you plan? If you present a budget and the budget returns to the executive in a manner that doesn't resemble what they presented, how do you plan? But in the early days, there seemed to have been a convergence of ideology between even those who were in power. And they were also, they sought knowledge. Let me be honest with you. They looked for those who knew and asked for their views. The first and second national plan, people at the Nigerian Institute for Social and Economic Research were very much involved. They provided research and support. But what we are seeing now, we need a mindset shift. We need a complete reorientation of leadership to begin to understand that this is serious business and that development does not just occur. You have to cause it to happen.
Elite consensus, and what I could summarize some of the things you said to mean a common purpose. It is lacking here. Whose duty is it to cause elite consensus and to cause a common purpose among the elites and leaders and even the followers?
No, it's.
Is it a Mamsa thing? Is it?
No. It's clearly top leadership. You know, concessions, compromises. We need a leader who can enlarge the tribe, if you know what I mean. A leader who can enlarge, a transnational leader who sees everyone as one of their own. You need a leader that acknowledges that mistakes have been made. We are going to correct these mistakes. You need a leader who will galvanize citizens to understand that the problems in the Northeast is our problem, not the Northeast problem. That success in Southwest is our success. A leader who lets people know that if we are building a train in Lagos, it is not for Lagos State. It is for the nation. If people are suffering anywhere, we are all suffering. So that sort of mindset, that sort of leader will not be looking at who voted for me, who didn't vote for me. But we'll be looking at the nation as its constituency. You're already the president. You're already... So this mindset shift is critical because it permeates. When you set the tone from the top, it will be unlikely that someone will spend 160 million, for instance, to buy a vehicle, when you know that that is like 22 years' salary of a professor like me, at the highest level. I earn 5 million a year, basically. So you can also see even where the priorities lie. If this country can allow those who are in the parliament, who produce the doctors, to be so lowly paid. But that's a story for another day. But this mindset shift, and there was also something, Vin Martin. We had a competitive federation. So when cocoa was reigning in the West, palm oil was reigning in the East, and cotton and groundnut were in the North. So there was a sense of self-pride. One of the things I talked about also in the book is the absence of shame. No nation, not even families, grow when there's no shame. If you have a family member who has no shame, there's crisis. So there was a lecture I gave one time, and I said, do you guys ever say, this will not happen under my watch? A leader should be able to say, if I am the general officer commanding this division, this will stop. Because sometimes when we talk about leaders, we don't know there are leaders at various cadre. If I'm the governor of Enugu State, no one will go hungry in the next 4 years. You have to have such ambitious yardsticks. We don't even have ambitions again. We don't have big dreams about where we want to take this country. So when Lee Kuan Yew said, I want to create a nation where everyone has a stake in it now and in its future, it wasn't just a statement for statement's sake. He instituted a housing policy that is tied to their retirement program, the pension. And so 80-something% of Singaporeans live in apartments that they own. When you have a home, you now have a stake in a place. You're not a tenant. You begin, because surrounding all of these questions you're asking me is the absence of a sense of a nation. And that is why everybody is running to their family, to their constituency, to their state, to their zone. So who discusses Nigeria?
When you talk about, because it's something you have brought up in almost every interview I've had with you, a sense of nation or a sense of nationhood. How do you reconcile this sense of nation with the strident calls and desire we are seeing now, where a lot of Nigerians are saying, just like what you said about the healthy competitiveness of the regions in the 60s. Now everybody is talking about let's regionalize, let's let the states be semi-autonomous. The federal government is still huge, restructuring, probably going back to the parliamentary system, which reduced the cost of governance and reduced the powers of the governors and the executives. They became first among equals, including the president. If he didn't do well, he didn't have to go through the rigorous system of impeachment, which has never really survived in Nigeria. How do you reconcile having a sense of nation that is working together, not going into cocoons, working for the greater good of the nation? How do you reconcile that with this desire that regions should come back again and that maybe the states as they are should be autonomous to some point? How do we reconcile the two?
No, you can reconcile them. One is that there will be a nation that is Nigeria, where we have freely subscribed to. Because it frightened me, and I don't know, maybe I mentioned it in the book. I took a corps of senior civil servants who were in Kaduna for training. And the first day I walked in, I said, on a scale of 0 to 10, where does your patriotism lie? Martin, over 60% of them said 0. So I thought something was wrong. Senior civil servants, those who are supposed to execute the policies of government, are telling me patriotism is 0. So they don't have a sense that the nation stands for them and that they have something to benefit. So I stopped the lecture and I switched the lecture that early morning to issues of patriotism, trying to whip up their sense of emotional attachment to the country called Nigeria. And I started giving comparisons with other countries, some of the things Nigeria has achieved, some of the things Nigeria has done. Because if you haven't traveled around Africa, you might also think that we have not done anything, which is not true. I started, because I was agitated somewhat. And then, of course, I went to the issue of even the core definition of patriotism, because you may hate your government, but you don't hate your country. So people sometimes mix this up. And so I gave them serious lectures. Of course, I don't know whether this helped, but the next day when I asked, the number had improved on the patriotic scale. But that's the pointer. So the agitations are coming from, you have not seen a galvanizing leader that says, we are one, I recognize the pains of all, what is your problem, let's resolve it, what are you agitating for, so those are there. And I think there's this, there's nothing wrong with saying, I am Igbo. No, that's who you are. But you are Igbo within the context of Nigeria. You are Yoruba within the context of Nigeria. You are also in the context of Nigeria. So Mahathir Mohamad had a similar challenge in Malaysia, the prime minister. Malaysia has Malays, Chinese, Indians, and others. And so a beautiful national plan was written for him. He said, no, I have to put this aside first. Let me build a nation first. You will be Malay within Malaysia, but within the context of Malaysia. You will be Chinese, but you will still be Malay uppermost. So he re-engineered the economy to make sure that perhaps the dominance of the Chinese did not mean that the Malays did not have a foothold, creating a sense of belonging. So I was in Malaysia and I saw things. I saw big cars, I saw small cars, I saw everybody was eating out, big restaurants, small restaurants. There is a sense of belonging. You can't have this huge poverty. That's the point I was making earlier. How do you create citizens when they don't have food, job, and housing. So perhaps what is being said is the region will create a sense of region, and then we can subscribe to those things that make nation, defense, foreign affairs, and so on and so forth. There is some argument in it. There is an evaluation that needs to be made, because transnational leaders, though that can put the various ethnicities together, seems to be eluding us. So if you can't have that galvanizing figure, or the system does not allow such a galvanizing figure to emerge, then you understand the problem. Because the system itself, if properly operated, could have thrown up such a leader. But the current system is controlled.
We're rounding off.
Thank you.
How do we prepare Nigeria's socio-political and economic environment for this fourth industrial revolution that you have constantly said has not taken off? And how do we make it take off? Because that's the final part of your book.
The interesting part about the fourth industrial revolution is not that it hasn't taken off. It's here already. The artificial intelligence is driving most things. Driverless car, Internet of Things, robotics. They are here. In fact, we have a very small window to exploit our population in the manufacturing sector before robotics takes over. They are more efficient. They have no leave, no rest time, and so on. But they are still very expensive, let's be honest. So we have a small window that we can still exploit. But, the state of Israel, and I forgot to give an example from there. There's a small book called The Startup Nation, The Story of Economic Miracle of Israel. It's a must read for my students. I think you've read it as part of ideas listed. It's interesting. Leaders are entrepreneurial. Ben-Gurion, Shimon Peres, when they started pushing for the aeronautic industry for Israel, they could not feed themselves. But they saw tomorrow. Leaders see tomorrow. Leaders don't see today. They see further than others see. And they see before others see. And they pushed on. They are entrepreneurial. A state governor should be entrepreneurial. What can I do to facilitate you, the private sector, to come and do what you need to do, even if it means my buying equity in it? I go to states and they're taxing private primary and secondary schools. I said, are you okay? You should be asking them, what can I do to improve the quality of education you are delivering for my citizens?
Development as attitude. What's your last word?
Well, leaders must direct the nation properly with values, integrity, ethics, purposefulness. Citizens themselves will adjust. The citizens have a reason to reorient themselves when they see what leaders do.
Professor Ogbu, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And that was Professor Osita Ogbu talking about his new book, Development as Attitude. We did tell you that the Archie community in Enugu, under the auspices of the Archie Improvement Union, AIU, held their 2023 end-of-year party in Enugu. Our correspondent, Chukwudi Madako, has details.
It was indeed an event to remember, as the Enugu branch of Archie Improvement Union, AIU, held its 2023 end-of-the-year party in Enugu. The event was hosted by one of the industrial sons of Archie, High Chief V. Martin Obiora Ilo Ebubedike, on Sunday, 17 December 2023 in Enugu. Speaking to Signature TV, the royal father, Igwe Sunday Oz Ora of Adoachi, thanked the host, High Chief Martin Ilo, for once again hosting the end of the year party of the entire Ache community in Enugu, adding that this was the 5th year he was hosting the annual event.
We are celebrating the end of the year with Ache Improvement Union Lagos Enugu branch. It's a wonderful occasion whereby all of us come together to celebrate the end of the year. And it's been hosted for the past 4 years by Honorable Vincent Martin Ilo, Ebedike, High Chief Ebedike Nkembo, Adoachi. He has been hosting this for the past 4 years. All of us are gathered here to celebrate once again, to thank God for this year, seeing the end of the year.
We are holding our end of year party at the residence of Chief Martin Obiora Ilo, who is our member anyway, and he has volunteered to host us, and we been for the past 4 years. So this is the 4th year of hosting us in his house. So this is an end of year party for Ache Improvement Union. Ache has paid for autonomous communities, and all of us are gathered here today to eat and to drink and to wine. So we are here to gather as brothers and sisters. So that's what we are here for.
Lending his voice, United States of America-based Catholic priest and indigene of Ache, Professor Stan Ilo, expressed his excitement in witnessing the 2023 edition of AIU End of the Year Party and urged the good people of Ache, home and in diaspora, to prioritize peace and unity in order to make Ache a better place.
One thing is clear, that a community is built by love, friendship, unity. Let them be together. Let us be united. Support each other, encourage each other, celebrate each other.
We are having our end of year party, the Ache Improvement Union end of year party for 2023, which I'm hosting, and I have been hosting for the past 5 years. It brings the entire Ache community together, the 12 towns of Ache. They come here every Christmas to end the year.
In attendance was the member representing Ojiriba in the Enugu State House of Assembly, Honorable Osita Eze, the traditional ruler of Adoachi, His Royal Highness Igwe Sunday Ozedora, chairman of town unions in Ache, and many others. In Enugu, Chukwudi Madako for Signature TV.
Also in Enugu, the grand finale of Voices in Praise Gospel Music Talent Hunt took place with a graduate of Ebonyi State University winning the coveted grand prize. Once again, Chukwudi Madako brings us the details.
You answer me, and every time I struggle, your grace is all I need to succeed. Your grace is all I need to succeed. As I lay through the night, my thoughts has been captured. I've got no rest in mind.
Victor Chimemadubuku has emerged the inaugural winner of the Voices in Praise Gospel Music Talent Hunt, which was held in Enugu on Monday. Victor, a computer science graduate of Ebonyi State University Abakaliki, went home with a whooping prize money of 500,000 naira, while Igwe Michael Chukwuemeka, first runner-up, claimed the second prize of 300,000 naira, and the second runner-up, Amadi Chinyere, took the third prize of 200,000 naira. The grand finale of the gospel music competition, which took place at the upscale Amadio Event Center, kicked off with 13 contestants, drawn from different parts of Nigeria, performing an African gospel song, followed by a Western gospel song, and finally an original song composed by the contestants. After the first round, 4 contestants were eliminated, while another 4 were eliminated during the second round, leaving only the best 5 to battle for the coveted Voices in Praise first prize of ₦500,000. It was an evening to remember, as music lovers who flooded the venue clapped, sang, and gyrated to the melodious songs dished out by the talented contestants who did not disappoint the appreciative audience. Speaking to Signature TV, the founder and the organizer of the Voices in Praise Gospel Music Talent Hunt, also Joe Mamel, said the objective behind the competition was to engage the youth and provide a platform for many talented young minds who were hungry for an opportunity to showcase their talents. He said he and his team were determined to make the Voices in Praise Talent Hunt an international competition in a few years' time, and thanked Signature TV and other organizations and individuals who supported the event. Many of the guests at the event commended the organizers for the initiative and called on government to support it. The occasion, which witnessed a large turnout of Enugu residents, was also graced by the former Enugu State Governor, Sullivan Ihanacho-Chime, President and CEO of Signature TV, Ebubedike Evi Martin Obiora Ilu, Igwe Sunday OZ Ora, Ezabata of Adoachi, and other dignitaries. The Voices in Praise Grand Finale was a celebration of musical diversity and a talent and a worthy addition to the tourism calendar in the southeast region of Nigeria. In Enugu, Chukwudi Madako for Signature Show.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And that's our program for this Sunday. I am Vin Martin Obiora Ilo in Abuja, Nigeria. Don't forget that you can follow us on our social media handles or go to www.signaturetv.org to watch this program again or watch our older programs. Until same time next week, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.